All right, ladies and gentlemen, the reviews are in for Gotham Knights. And one thing that concerned me yesterday, as I pointed out on Twitter, is that these reviews were embargoed until one day before. And if you don't know what that means, basically some games will drop reviews, like God of War drop their reviews 2-3 weeks in advance of the game, is my understanding. Whereas with Gotham Knights, it was pretty much 24 hours in advance. The game comes out in 16 hours as I'm recording this video, which is crazy to even say. I can't believe that is the case. But it is, and the reviews are in for the game. IGN, PC Gamer, Game Informer have all given their reviews, which I will now read to you now. As I shared on Twitter, I was shocked at how low the reviews actually were for a myriad of reasons, which we'll get into. But first, let me give you the reviews that the major trades are publishing here. IGN gives the game a 5 out of 10. Ouch. PC Gamer, 49 out of 100, even lower. Game Informer, 7.3 out of 10. GameSpot gives it a 4 out of 10. Wow. VG247, 3 out of 5, a 6 out of 10 more or less, and Game Rant gave it a 3.5 out of 5 or a 7 out of 10. Yeah, guys, so to be honest, as I tweeted, I was pretty shocked that the game came in this low. And the reason why is because you look at a trade like IGN, and IGN gives everybody a good review. as far as I can tell, I mean, Call of Duty gets a 9 out of 10 every year. Every year they get an 8 or 9 out of 10. Which is like, okay, fair enough. It's a AAA game that has great graphics and great gameplay, smooth, refined gameplay mechanics over 15 years of the franchise. Usually the story is pretty compelling, and usually multiplayer is consistent, solid, because it's more or less kind of replicated over the years. You look at Batman Arkham Knight. I believe IGN gave it a 9.2 out of 10, maybe a 9.4, somewhere in that range, if I recall. Arkham Knight had its flaws. Was it almost perfect game? I don't think so, but IGN seemed to think so. So the fact that IGN gave it a 5 out of 10 is the most concerning to me because, as I mentioned, IGN seemingly gives everything a 10. PC Gamer giving it under a 50 out of 100. I mean, less than a 5 out of 10. GameSpot giving a 4 out of 10. These are not ratings that you typically see, because here's the thing with game reviews is that typically, as I mentioned with the Call of Duty thing, if there is a consistent level of quality that perhaps surpasses the average video game from an indie developer, you kind of get brownie points in a certain extent. And what I mean by that is it seems to be the case that if your game has good graphics, reasonably smooth gameplay, and a reasonably coherent story, it will be at least a 7 out of 10. If those three things are there, the game seemingly is a 7 out of 10. And some of the trades gave it a 7 out of 10. Game Informer did. Game Informer gave it a 7.3. But again, IGN is not known for their super critical reviews. They're known to give Madden like an 8 out of 10 every year. So the fact that this game was so low out the gate is a little bit surprising to me. And to be honest, it did undermine my expectations. Now, there's kind of a bunch of ways to look at this, and it's complicating for a number of reasons. The first of which being, I don't necessarily care what critics think or say. As everybody knows, Batman v Superman, for instance, was panned, and I happen to enjoy that movie. And the same is true of many video games that are panned that I happen to enjoy. So does this mean that I will hate the game or the game sucks? Of course not. That's just what IGN thinks. But the fact that it's what IGN thinks and Game Informer and GameSpot and VG247, that is a little more concerning that nobody is loving the game. Again, the highest review that the game got was a 7 out of 10, which is kind of the baseline. In gymnastics, like if you're doing a more difficult routine, you will automatically have a higher starting score than somebody who's doing an easier routine to pull off or vault or whatever it may be. And you have to be more perfect to get a higher score. With a game like Gotham Knights that has been in development for 5.5 years by hundreds of people, there's going to be a certain level of quality that will be impossible for an indie dev team to pull off. Just with the amount of side missions, the amount of just the amount of content in the game is going to be so much larger than the average game. They have that built-in advantage. So for that reason alone, among others, it's a little bit shocking to see this. It's a little bit shocking to see the game panned in the way that it is by critics in the sort of public official trades. So what does this mean for Gotham Knights? Well, it gives us a little bit of a hint into some of the concerns that we'll have. or concerns we might have with the game. Again, does this mean that the game is going to suck and we need to not play it or cancel the pre-order? Of course not, because we are so close. And look, there is the chance that you play this game and you think it's a 10 out of 10, right? The other thing to consider that is less discussed on Twitter is that a lot of these reviewers are not actually big Batman fans or big Bat Family fans. You know, if you're watching this video, it's probably the case that you're an above average Batman fan in the sense that you are more of a fan than the average person, right? And if that is the case, you probably have more of an affinity for the 4 characters starring in this game than the average person. One thing that I shared on Twitter yesterday is that I didn't expect the games to get a 10 out of 10 for the simple reason that so many people are not actually even fans of the characters in this game, right? A lot of people are not fans. They're not fans of Barbara Gordon or Dick Grayson or Tim Drake or Jason Todd. And for that reason, how much are you really going to enjoy the game? You know, of course, the game could have been amazing. And, you know, I don't know. The Last of Us 1, we didn't know who Joel and Ellie were before that game. And everybody loved that. So it's not necessarily the case that you have to be a fan of these characters. But look, I think that part of the appeal of this game is fan service, if I'm being honest. Part of the appeal of the game is, hey, these 4 characters have always been in the shadows of Batman, literally and metaphorically speaking. And they've never really gotten the light of day to star in their own game or their big multimedia franchise. They never starred in a movie. They never starred in a video game. They never starred in a TV show, really. I guess putting aside Titans. And for that reason, we're going to give them a chance in this game, even though it is not the commercially profitable thing to do. The commercially profitable thing to do was to make Batman Arkham Origins 2. And everybody knows that. But they're like, look, we know that that's the case, but we're still going to make this game. And I respect them for that. I respect that they said, we're going to make these 4 characters that are less popular and will bring us in less money, and we're going to put them at the forefront. And we know that DC fans are going to love that, and more casual fans will be turned off by it. So I think that is partially what's happening here, is that a lot of people that are not really Bat Family fans, they're Batman fans to the extent that they've watched the Batman movies and maybe played an Arkham game or 2, and that's the extent of their fandom of Batman. And now they're playing Gotham Knights, and they're expected to, you know, kind of love Batgirl to the same extent that they do Batman, and they might not, and they just might not care about these characters as much. They might not know who the Court of Owls are, and they just don't care. Whereas all of us, we're just like, you know, we've read the new 52 Scott Snyder run, or we've seen the Batman and Robin film, animated film from a few years ago that has the Court of Owls in it. And we know that, like, these are really cool characters that are going to get a spotlight for the first time ever or in a long time. So look, you know, don't cancel your pre-order, play the game, and let me know your thoughts. And I'm really, really excited. I'm going to go live later today, so I'll see you guys then, and I'll actually share what I was going to say at the end of this commentary then. So I'll go live later today, and we'll chat then.